Chapter 574. Ningyang County was located in a remote area and was not considered rich. This did not mean that the resources in Ningyang County were not good. On the contrary, it was vast and abundant. The production of all kinds of resources was extremely high, especially the ores and materials used to refine spirit weapons. They took up more than half of the production of the entire Thunderfire dynasty. However, Ningyang County was still not rich. The reason was that there seemed to be some problems with the people here. Most of the people in Ningyang County were conservative, stubborn, and had a trace of arrogance. This was because Ningyang County was one of the origins of the human race. Its long history could be traced back to hundreds of thousands of years ago. This made the people of Ningyang County feel very proud. Today, the forces in Ningyang County were basically divided into two types. One was the normal spirit cultivator sects, and the other was the ancient tribes. The strongest sect in Ningyang County was the Divine Forge Peak. It was one of the top sects in the world along with the Blood Cloak Pavilion. More than half of the refiners in the world came from the Divine Forge Peak. Every year, countless people would go up the mountain to ask the Divine Forge Peak to forge spirit weapons. However, the Divine Forge Peak had its own rules and would not easily forge spirit weapons for them. Other than the Divine Forge Peak, the other spirit cultivator forces were very ordinary. Only a few first-rate forces could be taken out. This could not be blamed. The main reason was that most of the people in Ningyang County were born in tribes. They were basically taught by the elders of the tribes. Unless the tribe's foundation was not enough, they would let their descendants enter a spirit cultivator sect to cultivate. In addition, because Ningyang County produced a large amount of resources, the Thunderfire dynasty had a strong control over this place. There were also some people who chose to join the Thunderfire dynasty. So many resources flowed in and out, but Ningyang County was not very rich. Another important reason was that many of the resources were secretly flowing to one place. That was the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County. In a place with a large amount of precious resources, how could there not be any corruption? As long as someone dared to do it, the Dark Thunder Guards would be able to find out. However, the patrol inspector of Ningyang County's Dark Thunder Guards, Li Zhangtao, would not expose and punish these people. Instead, he would let them do as they pleased and take a cut from them. Li Zhangtao's method was actually similar to the Leng Shiqi's method in the West Desolate Province. This way, a large amount of spirit stones and resources would flow into Li Zhangtao's pocket every once in a while. Of course, it would flow into Li Ju's pocket. It could be said that the position of Ningyang County's inspector was the Li clan's money bag. They would never allow anyone to touch it. Li Jucheng was still thinking about how to deal with eunuch Gao and Leng Shiqi. But at this time, one of his trusted aides suddenly ran in and said, "Sir, I've just received a report that Lu Xingji and his two servants have used the interdomain teleportation formation." "What?" Li Jucheng was slightly surprised. He quickly asked, "Where are they going?" It's Ningyang County." Li Jucheng instantly stood up. His face was extremely gloomy. He said coldly, "It must be that damn eunuch who wants to take back Ningyang County." Wishful thinking. Quickly go and inform Li Zhangtao, tell him to prepare everything, and don't let Lu Xingji find out anything. We must remind him not to underestimate this Lu Xingji, and to be cautious in all matters. This subordinate will do it right away. On this day, Leng Shiqi, Feng Sha Mo, and Sulwan went through the Dark Thunder Guard's interdomain teleportation formation and arrived at Ningyang County's capital, Ningyang City. As soon as the three of them walked out of the interdomain teleportation formation, they were greeted by several Dark Thunder Guard members. Leng Shiqi secretly sneered. When they used the interdomain teleportation formation from the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters, the news must have reached Li Jucheng's ears. They quickly walked in front of Leng Shiqi and respectfully said, "Greetings, Sir Lu. We are all Dark Thunder envoys of Ningyang County's Dark Thunder Guard. We have specially received Sir Li's order to welcome Sir Lu. Dark Thunder Manor has already prepared a banquet to welcome you, Lord Lu." These people's attitudes were extremely low. Leng Shiqi revealed a faint smile and said, Sir Li is really enthusiastic. However, this envoy is under orders to investigate various matters in Ningyang County. It's not appropriate to be too close to Sir Li, so this envoy can only accept Sir Li's good intentions. This envoy still has to go patrol, so please return. After saying this, Ling Shiqi took a step forward and was already dozens of zhang away. Feng Shamo and Sulwan also followed closely behind him, disappearing without a trace in a few flashes. These people could only helplessly shake their heads as they watched Ling Shiqi leave. There was nothing they could do. After all, the other party was an imperial eunuch and had the authority to investigate. They couldn't just kidnap Ling Shiqi. They could only hurry and report to Li Zhongtao. At this time, in Ningyang City's Dark Thunder Manor, Li Zhongtao was waiting for Ling Shiqi with a group of inspectors and senior inspectors. Previously, these people said that they wanted to hold a banquet for Ling Shiqi, but looking around, there wasn't even a banquet. Instead, they were all sneering. It was clearly a hongmen banquet. Li Zhongtao was over 60 years old. His temples were gray, but he had a unique majestic momentum. He sat on the high seat, playing with an emerald jade rui in his hand. This thing was carved from Fengyuan warm jade, which was specially used to make 6th-level spiritual weapons. This thing was a treasure that would make people jealous outside, but in Li Zhongtao's hand, it was just a toy. After he learned that Eunuch Gao had sent an imperial eunuch who had just entered the gang spirit realm to Ningyang County, he actually didn't take Ling Shiqi seriously. Li Juecheng and Eunuch Gao had been fighting for so long that he could see at a glance that Ling Shiqi was here to seize power, but he still felt that there was nothing to worry about. This was not because he looked down on Ling Shiqi, but because he was confident in himself. Li Zhongtao had been in charge of Ningyang County for nearly 10 years. In the past 10 years, he had replaced all the Dark Thunder Guards in Ningyang County with his own people. It could be said that he had the final say in the Dark Thunder Guards. In addition, he had already established a good relationship with the major forces and businesses in Ningyang County. They were all related to interests, and they were bound together for good or ill. Therefore, even if he took the initiative to give up power, those people would not be willing to do so. No matter in terms of strength, influence, or background, Ningyang County was not a place where an outsider could interfere. Li Zhongtao had worked hard in Ningyang County for nearly 10 years. If his power was really seized by Ling Shiqi, a junior, he might as well find a piece of tofu and kill himself directly. Therefore, Li Zhongtao didn't care about the arrival of Ling Shiqi, even if Li Juecheng specially reminded him. Today, he had set up a formation to welcome Ling Shiqi because he wanted to show Ling Shiqi who had the final say in Ningyang County. There were a total of 4 supervisors in Ningyang County's Dark Thunder Guards. One of them, Lin Jigui, smiled and said respectfully, "Sir, you don't have to worry. Eunuch Gao is too naive to send a junior to seize power this time. It seems that Eunuch Gao has no subordinates to use. This time, we must make that Lu Xingji lose face. What elite assembly chief? It's just an empty title." Li Zhongtao glanced at him and said, "I don't care if Lu Xingji dares to seize power. He won't succeed anyway, but we can't underestimate him too much. The elite assembly chief is not just a title. At most, we'll make him lose some face and back off. If we go too far, he's already an eunuch at such a young age. Who knows what position he'll climb to in the future? When that time comes, it'll be difficult for him to settle accounts." Lin Jigui was also embarrassed that he had flattered the wrong horse. The others were also secretly laughing. However, at this time, the people who had come to welcome Ling Shiqi returned. Li Zhongtao frowned and said, "You came back on your own. Where is Lu Xingji?" Those people said awkwardly, He left directly." Chapter 575. Hearing this, everyone, including Li Zhongtao, looked at each other. For a moment, they couldn't figure out Ling Shiqi's intention. It was reasonable to say that he was here to seize power, but he didn't even enter the gate of Dark Thunder Hall in Ningyang County. What power did he want to seize? Or was this Lu Xingji afraid and didn't dare to come? But thinking about it, it didn't seem right. He was someone who dared to kill the inspector. How could he not even dare to enter the gate of Dark Thunder Hall in Ningyang County? Li Zhongtao couldn't figure it out. He didn't know where Lin Shiqi had gone. He suddenly felt aggrieved. It was as if he had clenched his fist but ended up punching soft cotton. It was very uncomfortable. He had been an inspector in Ningyang County for 10 years and was used to holding everything in his hands. However, Lin Shiqi didn't play by the rules and escaped his control from the beginning. This made Li Zhongtao's plan fall through, making him feel very depressed. However, he immediately snorted and said, "Let the brothers watch him closely. I want to know his every move and see what he's planning." Anyway, Li Zhongtao was very confident in himself. He believed that in the face of absolute power, no matter what tricks Lin Shiqi played, he couldn't shake him. He just had to deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. After leaving Ningyang City, Lin Shiqi went deep into the mountains and forests. Using the super detection ability of Byakugan, he easily got rid of the tail behind him. Then, the three of them went to the branch of the blood-clothed pavilion in Ningyang County. The pavilion leader of this branch was called Chan Yi. When the three of them arrived, Chan Yi was shocked. Standing in front of him was the direct disciple of the pavilion leader and 2 disciples of Wu Xiang, one of the 9 Hades blood-clothed assassins. Not to mention anything else, just their identities were not people he could afford to offend. "The 3 of you must have come from afar for something. Please speak," Chan Yi said politely. This time, Lin Shiqi didn't speak. The one who spoke was Feng Shamo. He waved his hand and said, "Bring me all the information on the Dark Thunder Guards in Ningyang County." The reason why Lin Shiqi and the others came here was, of course, to obtain information on Li Zhongtao. In the Thunderfire dynasty, only the blood-clothed pavilion could compare to the Dark Thunder Guards in terms of information. So, he was sure that there would be information on the blood-clothed assassins, especially information that couldn't be revealed. As long as he could get information that was unfavorable to Li Zhongtao, it would be much easier to do things in the future. Although Chan Yi didn't know why Feng Shamo was doing this, he didn't ask and immediately went to instruct his subordinates. Not long after, a few blood-red assassins walked in with a few stacks of information. So much? This was what Lin Shiqi and the other 2 thought at the same time. They didn't hesitate and quickly scanned through the information. They wouldn't know if they didn't read it, but as soon as they read it, they realized that it was all about the Dark Thunder Guard's dark history of corruption. Looking at it carefully, there weren't many in the early years, but there were more in the later years. Especially in the last 2 years, the information was piled up like a mountain. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was too much to count. Why does our blood-clothed pavilion have so much information on the Dark Thunder Guards? Lin Shiqi couldn't help but ask. Chan Yi was actually a little surprised because he had never paid attention to it. He couldn't explain, so he could only look at the people who brought the information. One of them said, "Sirs, we didn't collect this information on purpose. It's just that the Dark Thunder Guards have been too brazen in recent years. Many things are even out in the open. This information was only casually collected by our informants. If we dig deeper, there will be more." Hearing this, Lin Shiqi also felt that Li Zhongtao was getting more and more arrogant. As long as he, the Dark Thunder Guards, didn't investigate, who would dare to investigate such dirty things? This was simply embezzlement. However, this was definitely good news for Lin Shiqi. Although the information he had now couldn't be used as direct evidence, it would be enough to threaten Li Zhongtao if he collected a little. Li Zhongtao might not care about the evidence, but Lin Shiqi would at least have a reason to take action. Lin Shiqi took the information and asked, "Is there any more information on the Barren River tribe here?" "The Barren River tribe? I think I have some impression of it. It's a medium-sized tribe, equivalent to a second-rate sect." Chan Yi then added, "However, this tribe seems to have produced an incredible genius called Dichuan a few days ago. He later joined the Discipline Commission of the Thunderflame dynasty. Go and bring me all the information on the Barren River tribe." Lin Shiqi raised his eyebrows under the mask. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? The reason he asked about the Barren River tribe was because the location of the secret treasure recorded in the jade slip given to him by Zhuge Yun was near the Barren River tribe. He came to Ningyang County for two purposes. First, of course, was to help eunuch Gao take back the supervision power of Ningyang County. Second, was to retrieve the secret treasure left behind by the Star tribe. He knew that Di Chuan came from a tribe in Ningyang County, but he never thought that Di Chuan was from the Barren River tribe. He had the Seal of Desolation and the Blood Shadow Sword. If the Barren River tribe saw them, there would be some trouble. But then again, this might not be a bad opportunity. He had just arrived at Ningyang County. It was impossible for the three of them to overthrow Li Zhongtao, the local tyrant. Originally, he wanted to use some of the blood-clothed assassins. However, it was inevitable that some traces and flaws would be exposed if he did so. The Barren River tribe was where Di Chuan came from. This gave him an idea. The Barren River tribe was located in the extreme north of Ningyang County, deep in the mountains. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The tribe looked a bit like a mountain village. The people inside were very old and simple, wearing clothes made of animal skin. The men were all very strong, and their bodies were more or less engraved with patterns of different colors and shapes. The Barren River tribe controlled a mineral vein nearby. Although they were not very rich and powerful, they were not weak either. However, the leader of the Barren River tribe, Hope, was not satisfied with this. All these years, he had been socializing with rogue cultivators and spirit cultivators. He wanted to take over their biggest enemy, the Wasteland tribe. Originally, the desolate Chuan tribe's power had indeed been slowly growing, but a few of the spirit cultivator sects that had received benefits from him had either perfunctorily done nothing, or had even gone back on their word and joined the Wasteland tribe. This made him furious. At this moment, Hope was venting his anger in his tent. His body was filled with a tyrannical aura. No one dared to approach him, and no one dared to dissuade him. This was because the Huangchuan tribe had ambushed one of his caravans yesterday and suffered heavy losses. When he finished venting, the tent was already in a mess. He looked at the servants huddled in the four corners and roared impatiently, "Get out!" Those people immediately ran out with their heads covered in dust. Hope picked up a jar of wine and drank it. However, at this moment, a strange figure suddenly appeared. "Why are you so angry, Leader Hope?" "Who is it?" Hopu exclaimed. This was the core of the Barren Chuan tribe, and he himself was at the peak of the gang's spirit realm. Who could come to him without a sound? A figure wearing a black mask came out. "I'm here to help you." Chapter 576. Hope was tall, and his strong muscles were bulging with blue veins. He stared at the mysterious man who suddenly appeared. The spiritual force and qi and blood in his body were ready to burst out at any time. The mysterious man was Leng Shiqi. He said leisurely, "Chief Hope, please calm down. I'm here to make a deal with the Barren Chuan tribe." Hope was still vigilant, but he didn't summon the warriors of the tribe. Since the mysterious man could come to him quietly, his strength alone was enough for him to take him seriously. He said in a low voice, "You're not sincere enough to make a deal with me secretly." Leng Shiqi shook his head and said, "I have no choice. When the time is right, I'll be honest with you. But Chief Hope, you're wrong. I'm here with sincerity. Please look at this." Then he threw out a small sack. Judging from the shape and the blood oozing out of it, Hope knew that it must be a human head. Was this man here to deliver his head? With a light flick of his finger, the linen cloth was torn apart, revealing a bloody head. His expression immediately changed. The leader of the Golden Lion Gang, Yin Shou. The Golden Lion Gang was a third-class sect that he had given a lot of benefits to recently, but eventually turned to the Barren Chuan tribe. Although it was a third-class sect, Yin Shou, the head of the Golden Lion Gang, had broken through to the gang's spirit realm 2 years ago. Now the Golden Lion Gang was thriving and was very close to becoming a second-class sect. But now Yin Shou's head appeared here. And there was no panic on Yin Shou's face, which meant that he was beheaded in an instant. Hope thought that he could do it if he used all his strength, but it could only be done when Yin Shou was alone and unguarded. But how could it be possible? After all, Yin Shou was the head of a gang. How could there be no one around him? The mysterious man in front of him could come here quietly, which meant that his concealment skill was superb. Being able to kill Yin Shou in an instant meant that his strength was outstanding. Such a person was not someone he should take seriously. Moreover, Yin Shou's death had indeed lessened the depression in his heart. He cupped his hands, but his movements seemed a little stiff. It seemed like he didn't do this action often. How should I address you? Hearing this, Leng Shiqi smiled in his heart. Just call me Mr. Lu. Hope frowned slightly. He was not even willing to reveal his name, which made him unhappy. He simply asked, what is the deal that Mr. Lu is talking about? Just say it. I can help you destroy the Wasteland tribe, Leng Shiqi said calmly. However, Hopu revealed a mocking smile and said, destroy the Wilderness tribe? Humph, do you think that the Wasteland tribe is as useless as the Golden Lion gang? The Wilderness tribe had a long history. In its heyday, it was comparable to the current first-class sect. Even if it had declined, it still had 5 masters of gang spirit realm and more than 30 warriors of spiritual aperture realm. How could it be destroyed? All these years, I've been trying to rope in other spirit cultivator forces and tribes. In fact, it's not that I have to destroy the Wasteland tribe, but that I don't want to be destroyed by them. Leng Shiqi turned a deaf ear and continued, I only have one question. Leader Hope, do you want to destroy the Wasteland tribe? Hope immediately paused, his eyes flashing with hatred. Yes, of course I want to. But. No buts. Leng Shiqi directly planned to destroy Hope. As long as Leader Hope listens to my plan, destroying the Wasteland tribe is only a matter of time. Listen to you? Why should I listen to you? What ability do you have to destroy the Wasteland tribe? Besides, why should I believe you? Maybe you were sent by the Wasteland tribe. Hope also sneered. If Leng Shiqi had not given him a certain shock at the beginning, he would have called for people to surround and kill Leng Shiqi. Suddenly, Hope saw a 9-colored light bloom in front of him. He instantly arrived in a 9-colored world. His eyes were blurred, as if he was intoxicated in this wonderful world. At the same time, a voice appeared in his heart. Submit to me. He actually had the urge to kneel down and submit, but his eyes suddenly widened. His whole body lit up with ancient spells, and he broke free from the 9-colored world. But at this time, a dark green sword had already been placed on his neck. Hopu was horrified. Although he had several ways to escape at this moment, if the other party had really attacked just now, he would have been injured at the very least. This mysterious Mr. Lu in front of him was actually so strong. Leng Shiqi withdrew the black jade sword and said, do you know if my ability can enter Leader Hope's eyes? Also, you can completely trust me, because I am a member of the Wasteland tribe. After saying that, he activated the mantra of desolation, and spells appeared on his body, almost the same as Hope's. If Leng Shiqi's strength shocked Hope, then his use of the mantra of desolation made Hope feel incredulous. The mantra of desolation was a high-level secret method of the Wasteland tribe. Only the talented clansmen were qualified to be baptized and cultivate this method. It was impossible for outsiders to successfully cultivate it. In other words, this Mr. Lu was really from the Wasteland tribe. But Hope was puzzled again. He knew all the clansmen who could cultivate the mantra of desolation, but when had there been such an expert? However, there were years of battles between the tribes. Every year, some warriors would die or their lives were unknown. Perhaps this person had once been wandering outside. Leng Shiqi did not explain too much. The more he explained, the more flaws he would reveal. It was best to let Hope's imagination fill in the gaps. He continued, my identity is a little sensitive now, so it's inconvenient for me to show up. Next, I will help you rope in a few spirit cultivator sects to strengthen your forces. I will also help you secretly assassinate the higher-ups of the Wasteland tribe. In addition, I have a master comparable to the late stage of gang spirit realm by my side. Destroying the Wasteland tribe is not an empty promise. Hope thought that if he could really rope in a few spirit cultivator sects, even if they were only third-rate sects, then he would have a great advantage in the number of people in the middle and low end. Judging from the power of Leng Shiqi's attack just now, it was very likely that he would succeed in assassinating the Wasteland tribe. In addition, he had a late-stage gang spirit realm helper. Under such circumstances, it was really possible to destroy the Wasteland tribe. Although Hope was already very tempted, he did not rush to agree. He still asked, since it's a business deal, what does Mr. Liu want from me first? After I help you destroy the Wasteland tribe, your forces will also increase greatly. In return, you have to help me kill some people. Leng Shiqi stated his purpose. Who? Hope asked solemnly. If it was some difficult master, he would not agree so easily. Leng Shiqi only said 3 words, Dark Thunder Guards. Chapter 577. Hopu's expression froze. You want to kill the Dark Thunder Guards? That's right, Leng Shiqi replied. He didn't think Hopu would agree so easily. But he didn't expect Hopu to suddenly burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. That's great. Hopu's expression was fierce. I've long been annoyed by those bastards who only know how to squeeze us dry. I can't wait to swallow those bastards alive. Leng Shiqi's expression was calm, but he was secretly surprised. The Dark Thunder Guards under Li Zhangtao's leadership were hated by the local forces. It was obvious that they were often bullied. However, this was naturally a good thing for Leng Shiqi. He chuckled and said, since that's the case, does Chief Hopu agree to this deal? As long as you don't break your promise, I will definitely keep my promise. Okay, it's a deal. Leng Shiqi finally persuaded Hopu. He struck while the iron was hot and said, there's no time to lose. Let's carry out the first step of the plan and gather a few spirit cultivator sections. Chief Hopu, which forces have received benefits from you before? In fact, he already knew this from the blood clothing pavilion, but he still asked. At the mention of those sects, Hopu's face suddenly darkened. There's the Qin family of Blazing Sun City, the Water Cloud sect, and the Fallen Maple Sword sect. Of course, there's also the Golden Lion sect. Among these sects, only the Fallen Maple Sword sect was a second-rate sect. The others were all third-rate sections. Leng Shiqi pondered for a while and said, Chief Hopu, send a message to the Water Cloud sect. Tell them that you want to deal with the Fallen Maple Sword sect and ask them to help. They definitely won't help. At most, they'll send a few people to deal with it. Hopu seemed to have already seen the outcome. Leng Shiqi said, that's not the point. If Chief Hopu trusts me, then do it. I don't dare to boast, but I can guarantee that at least 2 forces will submit to the Baron Chuan tribe. Submit? Hopu thought he had misheard. It was already good enough that he could win them over. How could they submit? However, since he has chosen to work with Leng Shiqi, I will trust him this time and see what else he can do. At this moment, in the Aqua Cloud sect, they all looked at each other after receiving Hopper's message. They had no idea what Hopper was up to this time. The sword sect of Luofeng was a second-class sect. Its strength was not strong. There were only 2 masters in the gang spirit realm in the sect, but they were not much weaker than the Huangchuan tribe. Who gave Hope the confidence to make trouble for the sword sect of Luofeng? The head of the Water Cloud sect, Shui Yuntian, was a benevolent-looking old man. His every movement gave off a refined feeling. He frowned and said, what kind of enmity does the Fallen Maple Sword sect have with the Baron Chuan tribe? Why is Hopu so anxious? Tell me, what should we do about this? One of the elders said, Sect leader, the Fallen Maple Sword sect is not weak. The Huangchuan tribe will not fight to the death with the Fallen Maple Sword sect. Once we make a move, it will be tantamount to offending the Sword sect. What should we do if they decide to settle the score later? That's not right. A person next to him immediately retorted, after all, we have taken a lot of benefits from the Huangchuan tribe. As the saying goes, we should not go too far. You are afraid of offending the sword sect of Luofeng, but aren't you afraid of offending the Huangchuan tribe? You know, Hopper is very hot-tempered. Shui Yintian thought for a moment and said, well, let's say that our Aqua Cloud sect has been busy with many things recently and can't spare many people to help the Huangchuan tribe. We can only send 10 disciples in the spiritual pulse realm to him. It's settled. Although we have taken benefits from Hopper, we can't really charge into the enemy's line for him. Let's just deal with it casually. Hearing his words, the others didn't say anything more. Anyway, Shui Yintian was thinking for the sect. They couldn't get too involved in the conflict between the Huangchuan tribe and the sword sect of Luofeng. It was enough to send a few people to wave flags and shout battle cries. In the Huangchuan tribe, Hopper received the reply from the Aqua Cloud sect. He snorted and said, Mr. Lu, see? It's just as I expected. Ling Shiqi also sneered, Chief Hopper, let's go. Where are we going? Hopper was puzzled. Ling Shiqi's eyes revealed a shocking killing intent, to kill. Hopper seemed to have thought of something. He was shocked, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he immediately went to gather the experts in the tribe. In the Aqua Cloud sect, Shui Yintian was still drinking tea and playing chess with a few elders. They were chatting about everything under the sun. At this moment, a disciple ran over in a panic. Shui Yintian and the others were displeased. Shui Yintian said angrily, how can you be so flustered? Have you forgotten the rules of the sect? That disciple hurriedly said, Sect Master, elders, bad news. Hopper has brought a large number of experts from the Huangchuan tribe to attack us. Shui Yintian's hand trembled, and the teacup fell to the ground and shattered. Didn't the Huangchuan tribe go looking for trouble with the sword sect of Luofeng? Why were they attacking the Aqua Cloud sect? However, since they were already here, Shui Yintian didn't have time to think about it. He hurriedly led everyone to the mountain gate. At this time, many disciples of the Aqua Cloud sect gathered together with pale faces because the Huangchuan tribe had more than twice as many people as them. Moreover, the number of experts in the celestial realm far exceeded that of the Aqua Cloud sect. Even Hopper, the chief, and the second chief, who was in the late stage of Gang's spirit realm, were here. With such strength, it would be a piece of cake for them to destroy the Aqua Cloud sect. Those disciples of the Aqua Cloud sect didn't even have the intention to resist. They were only thinking about how to escape. Shui Yintian came over and was startled by the scene. His heart suddenly skipped a beat, and he secretly thought that Hopper didn't come with good intentions today. He cupped his fists and said, What can I do for you, Chief Hopper? However, it wasn't Hopper who answered him, but the mysterious masked man next to him. He said coldly, Today, we're here to ask for an explanation from the Aqua Cloud sect. Shui Yintian didn't recognize Ling Shiqi, and he was also very confused. Who was this man? Why did Hopper, who was always hot-tempered, regard him as his leader? However, he couldn't care less. He asked back, What are you talking about? Our Aqua Cloud sect has never done anything wrong to the Huangchuan tribe. Let me ask you, have you already surrendered to the Huangchuan tribe? Ling Shiqi asked harshly. Shui Yintian opened his mouth and didn't know how to answer for a moment. It was true that he had received benefits from the Huangchuan tribe, but he hadn't surrendered to them yet. However, in front of these aggressive people, he didn't dare to say no. He was thoughtful and said carefully, The Aqua Cloud sect won't surrender to anyone. We're just cooperating with the Huangchuan tribe. Ling Shiqi said coldly, Good cooperation. Then why are you only willing to send 10 disciples in the spiritual pulse realm when Chief Hopper asked you to send people to deal with the fallen Maple sect? Is this your sincerity? Shui Yintian said perfunctorily, That's because our disciples do have some trivial matters to attend to. We really don't have extra people. Is that so? Ling Shiqi glanced at the disciples of the Aqua Cloud cult standing behind the mountain gate. There were about 100 or 200 of them. Then send everyone standing here over. If you don't want to, you can come over in person. Shui Yintian's expression immediately darkened. Are you trying to force us to do something we don't want to? Don't tell me you don't care about the rules between spirit cultivator sects. Ling Shiqi's eyes were full of malice. Rules. Rules are rules. If you take someone's money, you have to help them. You've received benefits, but you don't want to do anything. How can there be such a good thing in the world? Today, I'll teach you another rule, and that's the law of the jungle. Hopper understood and stepped forward. He waved his hand and shouted, "Don't leave a single one alive." The Huangchuan tribe's warriors all shouted, and patterns of different colors lit up on their bodies. For a moment, the sound of battle shook the heavens. These warriors had grown up in battle. Whether it was their fighting strength or their aura, they were incomparable to the Aqua Cloud sect's disciples. In a single charge, 30% of the Aqua Cloud sect's disciples were killed. Shui Yuntian finally turned pale with fright. However, he didn't have time to care about others because Ling Shiqi was already charging at him. Chapter 578. In less than an hour, the entire Aqua Cloud sect had turned into a river of blood. All the disciples had been killed. Meanwhile, the Huangchuan tribe barely suffered any casualties. Hopu stood in the pool of blood, his heart filled with excitement. It wasn't the first time that the Aqua Cloud sect had brushed him off. He had also thought about destroying the Aqua Cloud sect, but he couldn't do that easily. Otherwise, the Huangchuan tribe would become a thorn in the side of the spirit cultivator sect. Forget about trying to rope them in, they might even become enemies. So, after a while of excitement, Hopu frowned. "Mr. Lu, destroying the Aqua Cloud sect is easy, but what should we do after that? We'll definitely become the target of public criticism. Who knows, the Discipline Commission might even come looking for us." "Don't worry, Chief Hopu." Ling Shiqi, however, shook his head indifferently. "You just need to get someone to spread word of what happened today, and let everyone know that you had a good reason to attack, and that the Aqua Cloud sect reaped what they sowed. That way, even if they're unwilling, they won't have a reason to cause trouble for the Huangchuan tribe. Besides, the Aqua Cloud sect has already been destroyed. Even if they come to seek justice, what can they gain apart from provoking the Huangchuan tribe? Only fools would do something that doesn't benefit them and will offend others. So, Chief Hopu, don't worry." Hopu thought about it and felt that it made sense. Since it was already done, it was too late to regret it now. He immediately had his subordinates plunder the Aqua Cloud sect's resources and bring them back to the tribe. There were many large and small factions in Tranquil Sun County, and they often had conflicts over resources. However, the Thunderblaze dynasty had many experts in every city, and there was even a combat army stationed here, eyeing them covetously. Coupled with the deterrence of the Discipline Commission, Tranquil Sun County seemed relatively peaceful. So, the destruction of the Aqua Cloud sect today was a major event that shocked Tranquil Sun County. All the factions were discussing it behind their backs. In Dark Thunder Manor, Li Zhongtao naturally found out about this very quickly. He said sarcastically, "The Aqua Cloud sect was only perfunctorily dealt with the Huangchuan tribe a few times before being destroyed. This Hopu is too overbearing." "Lord Li, I've also heard of Hopu. He's known far and wide for his fiery temper. I think the Water Cloud sect has really pissed him off this time. But there hasn't been a massacre in Ningyang County for several years. Should we investigate it?" Li Zhongtao sneered, "What's there to investigate? In any case, the Barren River tribe gives us a lot of offerings every year, and besides, this matter should be handled by the Discipline Commission. It has nothing to do with us. By the way, how is Lu Xingji doing recently? Where is he now?" As soon as he said this, the people below all laughed dryly. How could Li Zhongtao not know their morals? He frowned and asked, "What happened?" "Sir, that Lu Xingji has gone missing." One of them mustered up his courage and said, "Pa." Li Zhongtao suddenly slammed the table and said angrily, "What? Missing? How can you lose track of such a big person?" "Well, I have my own difficulties. Lu Xingji and the other two are in the gang spirit realm, and the other is in the late stage of the spiritual aperture realm. They are so fast. How can my men keep up with them?" "Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" Li Zhongtao was also angry. These men might have been idle for too long. It was time to teach them a lesson. Go, mobilize all the men of the Dark Thunder Mansion in Ningyang County. Spread the net and find Lu Xingji for me. If I still don't know where he is in 2 days, humph. At the end of his words, there was a fierce look in his eyes, which made those men tremble in their hearts. This time, Li Zhongtao was really angry. They immediately took the order and went to do it. Li Zhongtao suddenly let out a deep sigh. Right now, even he felt that the Ansha Dark Lightning Guards under his command were rotten to the point of rotting. Leng Shiqi's sudden appearance and disappearance were completely out of his control, which made him feel uneasy deep in his heart. Now, Leng Shiqi and Hopu had returned to the Barren River tribe. They brought back a lot of resources, which made the disciples of the tribe very happy. Leng Shiqi, the mysterious man, also won some trust and status. At this moment, Hopu and the other 3 leaders were discussing with Leng Shiqi in the tent. Mr. Lu, what should we do next? Leng Shiqi shook his head secretly. No wonder Hopu had worked so hard for so long without any substantial results. It turned out that there was no one in the Barren River tribe who could come up with a plan, including Hopu. Perhaps this was the price of the super fighting strength of these tribes. He said, the next step is very simple. We just need to repeat the method to deal with the Water Cloud sect. Send someone to inform the Qin family in Scorching Sun City and ask them to send people to deal with the sword sect of the Fallen Maple. Hopu finally understood. This was really a vicious plot. If the Qin family helped, they would offend the Fallen Maple sword sect. If they didn't, then the Qin family would suffer the same fate as the Water Cloud sect today. Okay, I'll send someone to Blazing Sun City right away. Hopu immediately went to make the arrangements, but Leng Shiqi stopped him again. Leng Shiqi said, this time, we'll catch the Qin family off guard. When the news of the Barren River tribe reached the Qin family of Blazing Sun City, the higher-ups of the Qin family were all worried. They knew very well how the Water Cloud sect was destroyed. Now, the Huangchuan tribe was using the same excuse to blame the Qin family. The key was how should they reply to Hopu now. If they really helped the Barren River tribe, then they would become enemies with the Fallen Maple Sword sect. However, if they didn't agree, the blood of the Water Cloud sect was still flowing. They didn't want to become the second Water Cloud sect. The patriarch of the Qin family, Qin Chuling, sighed and said, everyone, let's think of something. The elders immediately began to speak one after another. I think it's better to give in. Even if we completely offend the Fallen Maple Sword sect, it's still better than being wiped out. If we give in this time, it'll be equivalent to surrendering to the Barren River tribe. How can the Qin family raise our heads in front of others in the future? That's right, Patriarch. I'm not willing to surrender to those barbarians either. Why don't we send a few people to deal with them? You're too naive. The Water Cloud sect had the same plan back then. In the end, the Water Cloud sect no longer exists in this world. If there's no other way, we'll surrender to other forces and ask for protection. Or we can ask the Discipline Commission to mediate. However, just as they were arguing endlessly and hadn't come up with a solution, a loud noise came from outside the Qin family. A rough voice resounded through the sky. Qin Chuling, come out and accept your death. The expressions of the Qin family members changed drastically. They had just received the message. Why was Hopu here already? However, when they arrived at the gate of the Qin family, they were all stunned. Hopu wasn't the only one who came. There were also thousands of elite warriors of the Barren River tribe. Chapter 579. Seeing this, Qin Chuling had a bad feeling. But Hapa had sent someone to deliver the message, and now he was here. He didn't even have a chance to catch his breath. Until now, he still didn't know what to do. His heart was as anxious as ants on a hot pan, but he was still the head of the family. He forced himself to look calm and said, Chief Hopper, we were just discussing how to help you attack the Fallen Maple Sword sect. I didn't expect Chief Hopper to come so quickly. This time, it was Hopu who spoke, and Leng Shiqi stood behind him. It was not that he didn't want to show off, but the Chens were built near Scorching Sun City, and there were some people around. At this time, many people had gathered, so it was inconvenient for him to show up. Fortunately, he had told Hopu what to do before he came. At this time, Hopu shouted at the top of his voice, "There's no need to discuss. In order to save time, you can gather all your men. We'll set off for the fallen maple sword sect together. I'll only give you an hour." Hearing this, Chen Chuling panicked. Not only him, but all the members of the Chens who heard this were panicking. He hurriedly said, "Chief Hopu, don't worry, enough." Hopu interrupted Chen Chuling, "I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. You've received so many benefits from me, so you should do your best for me. This time, the fallen maple sword sect will be led by your Chens." "Impossible." Chen Chuling shouted subconsciously, but he immediately realized that he had misspoken. As expected, Hopu sneered, "Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then pay with your life. Kill." With the word "kill," thousands of soldiers roared and rushed out crazily. Leng Shiqi also fixed his eyes on Chen Chuling. He wanted to test out his current strength, but last time at the Water Cloud sect, that Shui Yuntian was too weak, and he killed him in 2 moves. Now, Chen Chuling was at the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm, just like him, so he could use him as a test stone. Leng Shiqi waved his arms, and hundreds of shining starlight and red and blue sword chi appeared in the air in an instant. The heavenly cycle star god technique that he cultivated had an accompanying spiritual skill called Starlight Sword Aura. This spiritual skill was only a level 4 spiritual skill and was not considered very powerful. However, the Starlight Sword Chi had a very good characteristic, and that was its extreme speed. Leng Shiqi's Sanju Sword Chi was integrated a long time ago. Even for him who was in Gang Spirit Realm, he could not keep up with it. Therefore, he integrated the Starlight Sword Chi into the Sanju Sword Chi during his closed-door training for 2 months. It was the Star Extinction Sword Chi. The current Star Extinction Sword Chi might not be too powerful, but it had the advantage of quantity and speed. Hundreds of sword chis of Star Extinction shot out like a meteor shower, instantly enveloping Chen Chuling. Chen Chuling did not know where this spirit cultivator of the spirit astral realm came from in the Huangchuan tribe. His strength was so strong that when he saw the sword chi that filled the sky, he actually felt that he could not resist it. He hurriedly pulled out a heavy sword, and the heavy thick earth spiritual gang burst out, dispersing a small part of the Star of Extinction sword chi. At the same time, seeing that Hopu didn't intend to attack, he also had a trace of luck in his heart. As long as I can stop this person for a moment, I may be able to escape. However, what he didn't notice was that a dozen shining stars quietly appeared in the sword chi of Extinction sword chi. Those stars trembled and suddenly shot out starlight chains from them. With a few swishing sounds, Chen Chuling's whole body was tightly bound by the starlight chains, and even the spiritual sword in his hand was blocked. 6th level spiritual magic skill, Celestial Star Lock. This was a relatively special spiritual magic skill. The Celestial Star Lock did not have actual damage, but the binding ability of the Celestial Star Lock was extremely strong. Even Chen Chuling, a master of Gang Spirit Realm, could not move after being trapped. Chen Chuling realized that he was about to die after just 2 moves. He panicked and immediately shouted, "Stop fighting. The Qin family is willing to submit to the Baron Chuan tribe. We will be loyal to them for generations to come. We will never complain." Hopu's expression changed when he heard this. He seemed to be a little tempted. However, Leng Shiqi pointed at Chen Chuling, and a finger's strength as fast as thunder and meteor pierced through the sky, directly penetrating Chen Chuling's lower abdomen. Chen Chuling originally thought that he was going to die, but when he discovered that the finger energy didn't hit his vital points, his whole body instantly broke out in a layer of cold sweat. He thought that the other party was teaching him a lesson and didn't want to take his life. However, the next moment, a horrible energy suddenly exploded in his body, and Chen Chuling's flesh and blood flew everywhere. This was Leng Shiqi's 5th level spiritual skill, Starbreaking Finger, which was integrated into the thunder-shocking blood sky finger. It not only had stronger penetrating power and faster speed, but also could explode the concentrated evil blood force, thunder shocking force, and star force after hitting the enemy, which was amazing. When Leng Shiqi was still in the elite club, he had to try his best to kill a master at the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. But now, he could kill him with a flip of his hand. First of all, after practicing the supreme method of Heavenly Star technique, he integrated his own methods of various attributes into it. The spiritual power in his body could be compared with the middle and late stages of Gang Spirit Realm. Moreover, he opened up all the spiritual meridians and spiritual cavities in his body, and even he did not know how strong the power was. On top of that, his physical strength and mental strength were extremely strong, which complemented his spiritual power. In this way, the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm was nothing in front of him. Leng Shiqi did not move, but killed Chen Chuling, who was at the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm, in 3 moves, which shocked Hopu. If he were to personally go up and use all of his strength to kill Chen Chuling, perhaps it would only take him a few moves. But Leng Shiqi had done it so easily, with just a wave of his hand. Hope admitted that he couldn't do it. After Chen Chuling died, the Chens had no chance to resist, and could only be slaughtered by the warriors of the Huangchuan tribe. There were quite a few people gathered near the Chen family. When they saw this bloody scene, they were all terrified. Some of the more timid ones began to tremble, while others turned around and ran away. Therefore, the news of the Huangchuan tribe exterminating the Chen family spread like wildfire. Everyone who heard the news thought that Hopu had lost his mind. However, many people were afraid of the Huangchuan tribe. They were not afraid of how strong other forces were, but they were afraid of the Huangchuan tribe, which was a mad dog that would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Hopu walked on the ground covered with corpses, and he began to enjoy this feeling. All his recent suffocation could be said to have been vented. How delightful! He said to Leng Shiqi, "Mr. Liu, tell me what to do next, and I'll do it." Leng Shiqi chuckled and said, "The next step is simple. We destroyed 2 third-rate sects in a row, and others have seen the determination and ruthlessness of the Huangchuan tribe. Leader Hopu, as long as you go to those sects who have received benefits from you or want to join forces with the Huangchuan tribe, they will most likely choose to join forces with you." In fact, it was true. Not to mention the entire Ningyan County, even the sects around the Huangchuan tribe were scared by Hopu. As long as he went there, those sects would immediately agree to cooperate with him and send him a large number of masters on the spot. In a few days, the Huangchuan tribe had gathered 4 third-rate sects, and there were more than 10 people in the Spirit Aperture realm who could help. Although the Fallen Maple Sword sect would not join them, they agreed to lend Hopu 2 masters in the Spirit Aperture realm. This kind of combat power had completely surpassed Hopu's old rival, the Huangchuan tribe. On this day, Hopu returned to the tribe happily. Leng Shiqi said, "It's time to start the second step of the plan." Chapter 580. Hope's rival, the Wilderness tribe, was also very famous in Ningyan County, because there were 5 Gang Spirit Realm experts in the tribe. Coupled with the tribe's inherited secret method, they were so powerful that sometimes they even dared to fight with the first-class forces. The Wilderness tribe also controlled 2 valuable mineral veins, which were also very rich. On this day, a caravan of the Wilderness tribe walked into a dense forest. This caravan was not weak. The leader was the second leader of the Wilderness tribe, Cook, who was at the 7th level of Gang Spirit Realm. His physique was not very tall and muscular. There was an exquisite emerald gem on his forehead. This was a unique feature of the Huangchuan tribe. Only those at the 4 realms of celestial being were qualified to wear it. The higher their cultivation, the larger and more exquisite the gem. This thing was not only a decoration and a symbol of identity, but also the source of the Wilderness tribe's inherited power. In addition to Cook, there were 5 Spirit Aperture Realm experts and 20 to 30 Spiritual Pulse Realm experts in the caravan. The rest of the escorts were also in the Spirit Transformation Realm, which showed that this batch of goods must be very precious and important. Cook was very confident. With the strength of his caravan, unless there were several Gang Spirit Realm experts or Oneness of Heaven, he did not think that anyone could threaten him. However, suddenly, the ground of the caravan lit up with countless flames, and a huge array suddenly appeared. 9 huge golden fire pillars soared into the sky and dyed the sky red. There seemed to be a dragon's roar as the flames burst out. The dragon's flame lit up the world and burned everything. Before the caravan could react, the dragon's flame had mercilessly devoured 60 to 70% of the spirit cultivators. This was the horror of a spirit cultivator. If he arranged the array in advance, he could create a terrible power in an instant. Only then did Cook react. He saw that the gem on his forehead was emitting a mysterious green light. As long as the light came into contact with the flames, it would disperse them. The same was true for the rest of the people. Finally, they managed to block the 9 palace fire formation supported by the pure gold earth dragon flame. But Cook knew that this was just a temporary measure. They would not be able to hold on for long. He immediately shouted, "Who dares to sneak attack my wilderness tribe?" However, the answer to him was 2 blood-colored saber auras that were more than 100 feet long. For a moment, blood chi soared to the heavens as the astral blade tore through the sky. However, the target of the astral blade was not Cook, but the spirit aperture realm and spirit pulse realm warriors behind him. How could those people withstand this ferocious blood-colored saber aura? They didn't even have the chance to escape before they were torn into pieces by the saber aura. After a few blinks of an eye, only Cook was left of the caravan that originally had over 100 people. Cook also had a bad feeling. He could also see that the other party wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop, not leaving a single one alive. Sadly, until now, he hadn't even seen the shadow of the enemy. The next moment, layers of crimson ice crystals scattered like snowflakes, condensing into an ice crystal cage around them. Cook's heart sank again. This was equivalent to cutting off his escape route. At this moment, 2 blood-red figures suddenly appeared. They were both wearing blood-red robes with mysterious golden patterns embroidered on their sleeves and collars, symbolizing their identities. A golden-striped blood-clothed assassin from the blood-clothed pavilion. Cook blurted out in horror. No wonder the other party had such horrible strength. However, he was more confused. Who could hire 2 golden-striped blood-red killers to kill him? The 2 were naturally Ling Shiqi and Feng Sharmo. Since they were going to deal with the wilderness tribe, of course, they had to weaken their strength. This time, Cook brought a large number of masters to escort the caravan, which gave them a good opportunity. As long as they could kill all of Cook's people, the wilderness tribe would lose a quarter of its combat power. Facing the 2 golden-striped blood-red-clothed assassins, Cook was also scared witless, especially the 9 palace fire formation. It was still burning at this moment. Now that the surroundings were blocked, he had no way out. He had to shout, "You too, although I don't know who hired you, I'm willing to pay twice, no, 10 times the reward, just let me live." Ling Shiqi ignored Cook, who was still surrounded by the 9 palace fire formation and had lost his courage. Even though he was at the 7th level of Gang's spirit realm, he was no longer a threat. He turned his head and said, "Senior brother Feng, let's make it quick." Feng Sharmo did not speak. He reached out and a grey long saber with wind patterns appeared in his hand. As soon as the saber appeared, the surrounding spiritual power of heaven and earth stagnated. Ling Shiqi's eyes widened slightly. This saber was a 7th level precious weapon, Sky-Hating Gale Saber. He could only say that the Pavilion Master's prototype was indeed different. A 7th level precious weapon. Let alone a Gang Spirit Realm Master, even a great master in the oneness of heaven and men realm could only have a few 7th level precious weapons. Naturally, Cook recognized the 7th level precious weapon at a glance. His heart was filled with despair. However, he was a master in the late stage of Gang's spirit realm after all. He knew there was no other way but to risk his life at this time. The gem on his forehead suddenly burst, and rich green light poured into his body, forming mysterious green patterns on the surface of his body. Feng Sharmo moved even faster. He raised his saber and slashed down. In an instant, an illusory wind saber more than 100 meters long chopped down, which was about to cut off the heaven and earth. In the face of this destructive saber, Cook roared, and the shadow of a giant beast from ancient times seemed to appear behind him. Unfortunately, just as he was about to break out and risk his life, Ling Shiqi made a gesture with one hand, and his whole body suddenly bloomed with endless nine-colored light, as if weaving a wonderful dreamland. The 6th level illusion, flowing light illusion skill. Cook's eyes were absent-minded. In his eyes, there was only a dreamlike 9-colored world, which intoxicated him. The giant beast shadow behind him also dissipated. At the same time, Feng Sharmo's saber had already chopped down. Strangely, although Cook was absent-minded for a moment, when the saber approached him, the green patterns on his body automatically flew out and entangled the illusory wind saber. Those green rays of light looked very weak, but they were extremely tough. They actually blocked the saber. Feng Sharmo snorted coldly. With one side of his saber, the shocking saber intent caused the wind to surge and the heaven and earth to shake. The illusory wind saber suddenly exploded, and countless sharp saber auras wreaked havoc, directly cutting Cook into pieces. This was Feng Sharmo's true strength. Perhaps it was because he had disguised himself as a Dark Thunder Guard for a long time and had held back for a long time, but Feng Sharmo fought to his heart's content, and Ling Shiqi became his assistant. However, Ling Shiqi did not care. As long as he could destroy this caravan, it was fine. He then kept the huge amount of precious ores in his pocket. If he sold all of these things, he would be able to get more than 700,000 to 800,000 spirit stones. Other than that, there were also many mustard seed bags and bracelets from spirit cultivators. Added together, it was a huge fortune. Feng Sharmo did not care about these resources. He walked over and said, "The next step should be to attack the Wasteland tribe. From now on, you can be considered to have Ho Pu's Wasteland tribe as your foundation. You will have the confidence to deal with Li Zhongtao. It is indeed a good plan." Ling Shiqi also nodded. It was rare to be praised by Feng Sharmo. However, Ling Shiqi had other plans. Just as he was about to talk about the follow-up plan, a notification suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. "Congratulations, host, the system has been successfully upgraded. Please take a look." Chapter 581. Ling Shiqi was also a little surprised to see this message. He didn't expect that 100 days had passed so quickly. He did a rough calculation and found that it was almost the same. He broke through to the Gang spirit realm in the Zhuge family's territory. Since the system was upgraded, he couldn't use the skill, Fate, so it took him more than a month to return to the imperial capital from Shantai County and then to Ningyang County from the imperial capital. Excluding the 2 months he spent in closed-door training, it should be 100 days now. Now that the system was upgraded, he had to study it. But his next plan was to attack the wilderness tribe with hope before the news of the death of Cuck and others was sent back. But the system had been reactivated, which meant that he could use the skill, Fate, to teleport, so it didn't matter if he wasted some time. He immediately split up with Feng Sha Mo. Feng Sha Mo went to inform Ho Pu to release his men and split them into 2 groups. One group was to ambush near the Wasteland tribe. The other group only had a few people, but they must all be masters of the Gang spirit realm. These people came here to wait for the big fish to take the bait. Ling Shiqi found a hidden place to set up inhibition and began to study the changes of the system. He first opened his information, name, Ling Shiqi, Lu Xingji, cultivation, level 1 of the Gang spirit realm status, peak bloodline, Dark Shadow Clan, Star Clan Management Authority, 49. 99% system energy, 50% cultivation method, special cultivation method, Wild Demon Blood Beast Body Sovereign Cultivation Technique, Heavenly Cycle Star God Technique Spiritual Technique, 6th Level Spiritual Technique, Heavenly Star Lock 6th Level Spiritual Technique, 5 Gods Illusion 6th Level Spiritual Technique, Flowing Light Illusion Special Spiritual Technique, Star Fall Technique System Coin, 300. The information interface didn't change much, but his system authority became 49. 99%, which was only a little bit more than half of the control. This also showed that the consciousness of the system still existed. But he was confident that as long as he killed one more time, he could seize the absolute control of the system. He checked all the subsidiary systems one by one. The system space had expanded a lot, so he didn't have to worry about the storage capacity anymore. The items in the system store had expanded to dozens. What was worth mentioning was that he could get a 20% discount when buying things in the system store. Perhaps this was the benefit of having a high level of system authority. He looked at the dazzling array of goods and was tempted. Unfortunately, he couldn't bear to look at the system coins he had now. When Leng Shiqi thought of this, he sold all the resources he had obtained from the Western Desert Province and the resources he had obtained from destroying the 2 third-rate sects to the system. Not only did he obtain more than 5,000 system coins, but the strange energy had also appeared in his body. However, the energy still disappeared in a flash. He did not know where it went, nor did he know how to mobilize it. Now that he had the system coins, he didn't immediately buy anything. Instead, he continued to check if there were any changes in the other subsidiary systems. He opened the pet system and found that in addition to the original pet summon, pet bind, and pet upgrade, there were also options for pet enhancement and pet advancement. What surprised him even more was that he had an extra pet space. This meant that he could bring another pet with him. The Goo King's ability and the help it gave him was so great that he felt the great benefits of having a pet. He had always been glad that he had chosen the pet system. The Goo King had absorbed a lot of energy in the dragon vein and was still in the process of advancing. Therefore, he could summon another pet to use first. Thinking of advancement, he looked at the option of pet advancement. He put the Goo King into the pet space and clicked on pet advancement. Sure enough, a line of information appeared in front of him. Pet advancement progress, 82%. At the same time, he also saw that he could directly give the pet an advancement pill to greatly increase the speed of advancement. However, the Goo King had to use an intermediate advancement pill to advance from rank 4 to rank 5. Leng Shiqi looked at the price. Good heavens, 2,000 system coins for one pill. He decided to let the Goo King slowly advance on its own. It would be soon anyway. As for the other pet enhancement, it divided the pet's attributes into 4 types, namely strength, agility, vitality, and intelligence. Spending some system coins to buy an enhancement pill could enhance one of the attributes. Leng Shiqi didn't need it for the time being. Since there was an extra pet slot, he decided to draw a pet first. Leng Shiqi then clicked on the pet's summoning interface. He didn't hesitate and spent 3,000 system coins to perform an advanced pet summoning. 3 colors of blue, purple, and gold flashed in front of his eyes. This also corresponded to the pet's grade. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but feel a little nervous. After all, the difference between blue and gold was still very big. In the end, the color settled on purple. Leng Shiqi was secretly relieved. The purple grade was the same grade as the Goo King. Although it wasn't the best, it was still better than the blue grade. However, when the purple light dissipated and revealed the body of the pet, Leng Shiqi was stunned. What did he see? What he saw was a round, pink, and tender pig. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a purple grade pet, 4-legged metal swallowing beast. 4-legged metal swallowing beast? Leng Shiqi was surprised. Did such a creature really exist in this world? After the summoning was completed, the little pig jumped directly into Leng Shiqi's arms and snuggled a few times. It even made a goyalu sound. It seemed to be very affectionate towards Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi was speechless as he picked up the little pig. The little pig was indeed very small. It was only as long as his forearm. At this time, its 2 small eyes were blinking at Leng Shiqi. Now that you mention it, it was a little cute. However, what was its use? As a purple grade pet, there should be something special about it. He opened the pet information and found that this 4-legged metal swallowing beast lived up to its name. There were only 2 ways to make this beast grow quickly. One was to swallow pet experience pills, and the other was to swallow spiritual stones. Not materials, but spiritual stones. For example, Leng Shiqi would feed the Goo King some materials when he was free. However, this 4-legged metal swallowing beast only ate spiritual stones. It really lived up to its name. The four-legged metal-swallowing beast's ability was also special. It was not a combat-type pet, but a support type. Its ability was to search for nearby treasures. The higher its grade, the better the range and quality of the treasures it could search. It could be said that this four-legged metal-swallowing beast was a treasure-hunting compass. Unfortunately, this little thing was only Stage 1 and could only search for Stage 1 resources within 100 feet. It still needed to be nurtured. Leng Shiqi touched his chin. This thing was not useless. Although it required a lot of spiritual stones to feed it, he had just obtained a large amount of resources and could completely afford to raise it. In the future, he could also obtain a lot of precious resources through this beast. As long as he worked hard, he would be able to make a profit. Thinking of this, Leng Shiqi's heart could accept it. He took out a spiritual stone and put it in front of the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's face. Its small eyes suddenly became round, and its four short little legs began to move. It opened its mouth and swallowed the spiritual stone. With a few crunching sounds, the spiritual stone went into its stomach. After that, the little thing looked at Leng Shiqi with a face full of anticipation. It was almost drooling. Leng Shiqi smiled and said, "It's not that big, but its appetite is not small." Then he took out a few spiritual stones and put them aside for the little thing to eat. He was ready to see if there were any changes to the lottery system. Chapter 582. Leng Shiqi opened the Lucky Draw interface. Unfortunately, there were no new Lucky Draw options, but there was a free unlimited Lucky Draw option. He thought about it and realized that it had been a long time since he last did the Lucky Draw. The system coins that he had saved up in the past were all used to upgrade the system map, by the Great Bright Fist, and exchange them for spirit stones at the auction. It could be said that all the system coins had been spent on the Lucky Draw, which meant that he had never had the chance to use them for the Lucky Draw. It was the same now. He had just summoned his pet and spent 3,000 system coins. The remaining 2,000 had to be used to buy some pet experience pills for the four-legged metal-swallowing beast. In addition, the shop had expanded a lot, and there were some things that he needed. Therefore, the system coins were still too scarce. He did not have much extra to use for the Lucky Draw. Of course, the most important thing was that even if he did not do the Lucky Draw, he was still self-sufficient. He was now very rich in cultivation methods, spiritual skills, and spiritual weapons. Then, he skillfully pressed the Unlimited Lucky Draw button. He was very calm. After a flash of light, a secret manual appeared in front of him. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Level 6 Spiritual Skill, 9 White Bone Claw. 9 White Bone Claw? It's such a vicious spiritual skill. Leng Shiqi muttered as he picked up the secret manual. However, he suddenly smiled because he had a lot of vicious cultivation methods and spiritual skills. It just so happens that the Earth Demon Dragon Claw is too weak. It has some similarities with the 9 White Bone Claw, so it can be combined. He quickly found a way to combine them. After the Lucky Draw, he was ready to see if there were any subsidiary systems that could be activated. Every time the system upgraded, a subsidiary system would be activated. Last time, he chose the pet system among several subsidiary systems. This time, he did not know what system he could choose from. System upgrade successful. Please choose a subsidiary system. Leng Shiqi clicked on this notification. Then, a large number of words suddenly appeared on the screen in front of him. Mission system, equipment system, dungeon system, team system, guild system, territory system, achievement system, master system, profession system, challenge system, mount system. There were dozens and hundreds of systems that he could choose from. Leng Shiqi was overjoyed, but at the same time, he felt a headache coming on. How long would it take to study them one by one? Now, he could only use the elimination method to quickly choose. First, in the first round, he would eliminate the subsidiary systems that could be eliminated without even looking at them, such as the mission, life, master and apprentice, marriage systems, and so on. After that, there were still about 50 to 60 subsidiary systems. He could only click on them one by one to take a closer look. The challenge system was an activity similar to climbing a tower. Every time one succeeded, there would be a certain reward. The earlier stages were relatively simple, and one could accumulate some resources. However, it would only get more and more difficult towards the end, to the point where it would be difficult to even take a single step. Apart from harvesting some low-grade and mid-grade resources, it would not be of much use, so it was eliminated. Team system: you can form a team with up to 4 people. You can sense each other and communicate with each other from a distance. He could only say that it was indeed very convenient. However, the only people he could trust in this world were the Delta Origi. He couldn't even gather 5 people, so he eliminated them. After rounds of selection, Ling Shiqi was only left with 4 subsidiary systems. They were the instance system, the profession system, the territory system, and the talent system. The instance system, as the name implied, allowed you to enter a dungeon. Back on Blood Mist Island, he had entered a mystical ruins instance. The battle had been fierce, but the rewards had been good. The instance system actually had 2 ways to unlock a dungeon. One was the instance card he had used before. After activating the instance system, you could obtain an instance card every day. As for the quality of the card and the type of dungeon, it was completely random. The other was to connect to a virtual world and set it as a large instance dungeon. It was then divided into smaller instance dungeons of varying difficulty. Once you cleared all the instance dungeons in this instance dungeon, you could continue to unlock the next instance dungeon. To put it bluntly, the instance system allowed you to enter one instance dungeon after another. You could either kill monsters or complete special quests, and finally receive the corresponding rewards. The profession system gave you a random profession, such as a craftsman, an alchemist, an array master, and so on. Ling Shiqi would be very happy if he could get these professions randomly. However, there were also some strange professions. Like a demon hunter, a scavenger, a coffin keeper, no matter how you looked at it, they didn't seem like proper professions. Ling Shiqi was hesitant. The territory system. After activating this system, you had to randomly select a territory. This territory could be a mansion, an underground city, a secret realm, or even a futuristic sci-fi base. Once you had a territory, you would be the overlord of it. You would then have all sorts of ways to expand your territory. However, you only had one chance to select a territory. You could not change what territory you selected. It was a bit like an infinite lottery where the upper and lower limits were high. The talents in the talent system were somewhat similar to the bloodline power in this world, but talents were also drawn. For example, there was the talent Rapid Progress, which could speed up cultivation, the talent Berserk God, which could increase spiritual power, and the pupil skill Supercilious Eyes, which he already had. It could be said that the innate gift system could directly or indirectly increase Ling Shiqi's strength. It was also the auxiliary system that he liked the most. Ling Shiqi's brows furrowed as he pondered. For a moment, he didn't know which system to choose. These 4 subsidiary systems were carefully selected by him. Each of them had their own advantages. Of course, they also had their own disadvantages. For example, they were all more dependent on one's looks. After careful consideration, Ling Shiqi decided to eliminate the profession system. Although there was a chance that he'd be selected as an artificer or alchemist, Ling Shiqi didn't consider them irreplaceable. Especially after his strength and status became higher and higher, he was naturally able to mobilize high-level weapon refiners to forge ice blades for him, or invite alchemy masters to refine pills for him. If he'd been able to secure a good profession, he wouldn't have hesitated to choose the auxiliary system. Unfortunately, the profession system was random, so he had no choice but to give it up. Then, he eliminated the instance dungeon system. He'd entered an instance system before, and knew he'd have to enter in his own body. Fighting in the instance system would inevitably lead to injuries. He wasn't afraid of being injured, but his status was becoming more and more sensitive. He didn't know how many people were secretly watching him. If he was inexplicably injured, it was inevitable that people would notice and target him. In the end, he could only choose between the territory system and the innate gift system. Compared to increasing his strength, having this absolute life-saving ability seemed to be more practical. Thinking of this, Ling Shiqi finally made up his mind and chose the territory system. Congratulations to the host for activating the subsidiary system, territory system. Randomly selecting territory, Ling Shiqi was not as nervous as before. He only needed the territory system to save his life. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the divine territory, underworld. Swoosh. Ling Shiqi suddenly stood up, his face full of undisguised surprise. Divine grade territory? After the unlimited skill points, he finally got another divine tier reward. He was well aware of the benefits of divine tier rewards. It could also be said that the unlimited skill points played an important and irreplaceable role in his current strength and achievements. He could use the unlimited skill points to quickly cultivate his spiritual skills to the highest level and gain a lot of insight and understanding. Therefore, he could smoothly fuse his spiritual skills. Therefore, the unlimited skill points were the foundation of his success. And now, he finally got another divine tier reward, underworld. Underworld? Could it be that underworld? Ling Shiqi murmured. He was a little unsure if it was the underworld that he imagined. Whether it was or not, he would know once he entered. Ling Shiqi immediately opened the new territory system. There was indeed an option to enter territory. He gently clicked on it, and immediately, his body disappeared in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in an extremely dark world. After seeing the surroundings clearly, Ling Shiqi was a little surprised. This was because as far as the eye could see, this space was pitifully small. It was similar to the small arcane realm that Oziu found back then. It was only a few miles in radius and he could see the end of it at a glance. At this moment, Ling Shiqi was standing in front of a dilapidated wooden gatehouse. This gatehouse was 2 feet tall and had a strange shape. There were some evil spirit patterns on it. However, most of the wooden structure had already rotted, as if it would collapse at any time. Ling Shiqi looked up and saw 3 large pitch-black words at the top of the gatehouse, Underworld's Gate. Seeing these 3 words, Ling Shiqi's pupils shrank slightly. Is this really the legendary underworld? However, the underworld did not look like the terrifying boundless hell in the legends. Instead, it looked more like a desolate village. Ling Shiqi frowned. He could only walk through the underworld's gate and continue forward. Inside the underworld's gate was a rugged path called the road to the underworld. Beside the road to the underworld was an almost dried-up stream. It was the river of forgetfulness. As he walked forward, he came to a small wooden bridge that was 2 to 3 feet long. Looking at the rotten wooden board, it seemed like it would break with a light step. However, this small bridge was called the Bridge of Helplessness. Ling Shiqi subconsciously looked left and right. He did not see an old woman giving soup here. His brows were already furrowed. From the names of these places, this was indeed no different from the hell mentioned in his previous life. However, this was too shabby. It was not worthy of the grade of a god-level territory. Ling Shiqi could only continue forward with doubts. Creak. Creak. He walked across the shaky bridge of helplessness. Beside him was a haystack that was several people tall. On it were the words, Village Viewing Platform. Behind the village viewing platform was an extremely ugly boulder. One side of the boulder was very smooth. This item was called the 3-life stone. Ling Shiqi stopped in front of the 3-life stone for a while. He did not see his previous life and current life on it. He shook his head and walked forward. Not long after, he came in front of a large thatched hut. This unremarkable thatched hut was actually the hall of ecstasy that condemned people to sin. Ling Shiqi did not walk in. His attention was attracted by a dilapidated city gate not far away. The city gate was about 3 to 4 feet tall. The dilapidated city walls on both sides did not seem to have an end. There was a couplet on both sides of the city gate. The first couplet said, man and ghost, ghost and man and ghost are different. The second couplet said, yin and yang and yin and yang are forever separated. This couplet did not have a horizontal inscription. Instead, there was a black plaque where the words, Fengdu City, were written in gold. Chapter 584. Seeing the three golden words, Fengdu City, Ling Shiqi's eyes lit up. He vaguely remembered that there were two types of underworld systems in his previous life. One was the East Mountain underworld led by the Great Emperor of the East Mountain, and the other was the Fengdu City underworld led by the Great Emperor of the East Mountain. Of course, there were also systems that combined the two. The Great Emperor of the East Mountain was in charge of all living things in the world, while the Fengdu Emperor of the North was in charge of hell. It seemed that the god-tier territory he had drawn was a mythological system led by the Fengdu Emperor. The gates of Fengdu City were currently closed. Ling Shiqi walked up to the gates and pushed gently. The gates were easily pushed open by him. However, there was nothing behind the gates. There was only nothingness. At this time, the system prompt appeared. Congratulations to the host for becoming the master of Underworld, the Fengdu Emperor of the North. Underworld Territories current level, Tier 0. Underworld Territories upgrade requirements, 1. Recruit a member of Underworld. 2. 5,000 system coins. Seeing this information, Ling Shiqi finally understood. It turned out that although the territory drawn by the system was God tier, it still needed to be upgraded slowly from Tier 1. The two requirements to upgrade Underworld seemed simple, but Ling Shiqi had a bad feeling about them. First, he needed to recruit a member. This was the first member of Underworld, and it had to be someone he could completely trust. Therefore, he could only set his sights on the Delta Origi. But what about the future? If he continued to upgrade Underworld, he would definitely need to recruit more members. Who would he look for then? Also, the system coins were also a scam. Upgrading Underworld from Tier 0 to Tier 1 required 5,000 system coins. Wouldn't that be a sky-high price in the future? He vaguely felt that the territory system was a bottomless pit. Most importantly, apart from being able to teleport into Underworld to avoid danger, there seemed to be nothing else he could do. As for his title of Fengdu Emperor of the North, it seemed very powerful, but it was completely useless. He was a general without an army. After walking around Underworld, he gained nothing. The joy he felt from drawing a god-tier territory was completely washed away. At least for now, this Underworld was indeed useless. He just didn't know what it would become after upgrading. Ling Shiqi sighed deeply, then chose to leave the territory. The next moment, he appeared in the outside world again, and his location remained the same. He suddenly became thoughtful. If he encountered any danger in the future and needed to hide in the Underworld, then he would have to stay there for a while. Otherwise, it would be bad if the enemy was waiting for him. At this point, he had more or less finished studying the changes that had occurred after the system upgrade. It was time to get down to business. He opened the system map and quickly found the location of the Wasteland tribe. Then, he was bathed in red, blue, and yellow light and disappeared. At this time, in the central tent of the Wasteland tribe, Chief Anson was sitting with a worried face. Below him, there were 3 people arguing fiercely. They were the 3rd, 4th and 5th chiefs of the Wilderness tribe, 2 in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm and 1 in the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. The reason for their quarrel was Hope's Baron Chuan tribe. The Baron Chuan tribe could be said to be the most talked about force in Ningyang County recently. Hope had destroyed 2 spirit cultivation sects in succession and subdued some sections. Not only had he become famous, but his strength had also improved greatly. The Baron Chuan tribe and the Baron Chuan tribe were sworn enemies. The Baron Chuan tribe had always been stronger, but now they were obviously weaker than Hope. Everyone knew what Hope was thinking, so now the Baron Chuan tribe was most worried about when Hope would come to attack them. The 3rd leader of the Baron Chuan tribe said, "Hope is ambitious. He has long been in a situation where he will fight to the death with us. Sooner or later, he will attack us. Instead of passively defending, we might as well take advantage of the fact that the sects that have surrendered to him haven't gathered yet and gained the upper hand. You make it sound nice. We have been enemies with Hope for so long. Don't you know that he has spies around us? As long as we send a large number of people, he will definitely know in advance. The fourth leader shook his head. The third leader's face fell. He sneered and said, "If you know that there are spies around, you will be negligent." What do you know? Sometimes, we can use these spies to deliberately leak false information to Hope, but we definitely won't be able to hide it from him if we move on a large scale. The fifth leader acted as a mediator. The most important thing now is to strengthen our strength. In my opinion, we should call back second brother as soon as possible. Also, we can contact the sects that have been on good terms with us before. Maybe we can borrow some people. Leader Anson finally spoke. Fifth leader's idea is reliable. As long as we gather all our strength and deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo, Hope won't dare to attack us rashly even if he is slightly stronger than us. The fourth leader sighed. Big brother, think about it. Why did the Baron Chuan tribe destroy the Water Cloud sect and the Qin family of Blazing Sun City? Isn't it because these two sects accepted his benefits but didn't do anything? Now, who doesn't know that we are like fire and water with Hope? We can fight at any time. Which sects will help us at this time? If worst comes to worst, we will follow Hope's example and kill whoever disobeys. The third leader shouted. However, at this moment, a person ran in from outside and bowed. Leader, someone outside wants to see you. He says he has an important secret to tell you. The third leader was immediately displeased. Who is this person? What is his cultivation level? The person shook his head and said, I don't recognize him. He seems to be a rogue cultivator, only at the spirit transformation realm. Spirit transformation realm? The third leader was furious. How dare you? How dare you swindle your way into our tribe? Break his legs and throw him out. But the person hesitated and raised the thing in his hand. It was a broken green gem. The wasteland gem. The leaders were shocked when they saw it. This wasteland gem was a treasure unique to their tribe, and only experts at the four realms of heaven were qualified to wear it. Since this gem was broken, it meant that someone in the wasteland tribe had died. Anson immediately felt that something was wrong. He quickly said, quickly bring the person at the door in. Yes. Soon, a shabbily dressed middle-aged man walked in. His appearance was average, and his face was a little stiff. He slowly said, Greetings, leaders. Anson and the others looked at each other. This person didn't seem to be very smart. Who are you? Where did you get this wasteland gem? Anson asked in a deep voice. I found it at Mount San Ning. There are still many of these things. After saying that, he shook his sleeves. With a clatter, a small pile of broken wasteland gems was thrown to the ground. There was even a piece that was about the same size as Anson's head. Anson and the others instantly turned pale with fright when they saw this scene. Chapter 585. Anson and the other three recognized it at a glance. The biggest gem belonged to the second leader, Cook. Coupled with the broken gems on the ground, they instantly thought of one thing, and that was that something had happened to the caravan led by Cook. Not only had something happened, but judging from the current situation, they had probably been completely annihilated. The third leader, who had the most explosive temper, shouted, Impossible. Second brother's caravan was moving in secret, outsiders did not know about it at all. Besides, with second brother's strength and so many experts, how could they be completely annihilated? I don't believe it. The third leader instantly grabbed the middle-aged man's neck, and a vicious aura rose from his body. However, the man's face was still blank, without the slightest bit of fear. Seeing this, the third leader was even more furious. Just as he was about to pinch the man to death, Anson stopped him. Third brother, don't be rash. Let's ask clearly first. This brother, can you describe the scene you saw? The middle-aged man briefly described the scene of Cook's group dying miserably. And Sen's face was also as gloomy as water. He gritted his teeth and said, "Who did it? Who else could it be? It must be Hope without a doubt." The third leader said angrily, "Otherwise, who would have the ability to kill second brother? But other than the few of us, no one else knows about second brother's whereabouts. How did Hope intercept second brother?" And Sen asked doubtfully. The third leader looked at the fourth leader suspiciously. The fourth leader's heart trembled. "What, third brother, are you suspecting me?" "Humph, I didn't say that. Why are you in such a hurry to take a seat? Do you have a guilty conscience?" The third leader said sarcastically. "Bullshit. You." Just as the fourth leader was about to refute, Ensign shouted, "Enough." Ensign instructed, "Men, take care of this person first. Third brother, take some people to Mount Sanning to take a look at the situation. Fifth brother, contact the spirit cultivator sects that are on good terms with us. As for fourth brother, you can go back first." Then, two people walked in and took the middle-aged man away. The third leader glared at the fourth leader fiercely and walked out quickly. The fourth leader secretly gritted his teeth and took a deep look at Senator. However, he didn't say anything and finally went back obediently. The fifth leader said uneasily, "Big brother, will it be dangerous for third brother to go out? I think it's better if we don't split up. Maybe Hopper is lying in ambush around us." And Sen thought for a moment and said, "Don't worry. I've also planted spies in the Huangchuan tribe. They haven't done anything yet." The fifth chieftain nodded and left. 30 miles away from the wilderness tribe, Ling Shichi saw the two masters of Gang's spirit realm leaving the wilderness tribe in different directions. He smiled. At present, all the reactions and actions of the wasteland tribe were within his expectations. The middle-aged man with the broken gem just now was actually a casual practitioner caught by Ling Shichi. He controlled the man's mind with flowing light illusion, so in fact, the man had become Ling Shichi's puppet. Ling Shichi couldn't help but sigh at the horror of flowing light illusion. However, this technique also had a certain flaw, which was that the person being controlled would be sluggish. If it weren't for the shocking news that Kuk and the others were all killed, and Sun and the others might have noticed the man's abnormality. But fortunately, they weren't careful enough. Now, the third leader of the wilderness tribe had gone to Mount Sanning with the spirit tablet of spiritual aperture realm. If Ling Shichi was right, Hopper must have arranged masters to ambush there. The third leader probably couldn't come back. As for the fifth chieftain, a killing intent flashed in Ling Shichi's eyes, and he left as light as the wind and as fast as lightning. The wasteland tribe's fifth chieftain was called Xing. He had the lowest cultivation, the lowest status, and the lowest authority among the 5 chieftains. Perhaps it was because of this that he saw things more clearly than the other chieftains who were blinded by power. For example, when Ensign asked him to contact the spirit cultivator sects, he could say that 90% of the spirit cultivator sects would not agree to help. Moreover, he always felt that the attack on Kuk's caravan was a bit strange. But he didn't have much authority in front of the other chieftains. Even if he brought it up, it would be ignored, so he could only do as he was told. At this time, he was rushing through a small path to the nearest spirit cultivator sect. Suddenly, a cold wind blew around him, and ghostly shadows howled. White bone claw shadows fell from the sky, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart made people feel as if their eardrums were about to burst. Someone's ambushing us. Ensign couldn't help but be shocked. His reaction wasn't slow, and a pair of rings appeared in his hands. The rings split into 2 and flew out of his hand, turning into 2 giant pythons that intertwined and rushed into the claw shadows. However, at this moment, a terrifying baleful aura filled the world, as if a demon had descended. The terrifying baleful aura almost isolated the surrounding spiritual energy, and the 2 giant pythons immediately showed signs of distorting and collapsing. What a terrifying baleful aura! How many people has this person killed? And Xing's heart was filled with shock. He simply couldn't understand who had targeted him and ambushed him here. What he was even more puzzled about was that only the 3 chieftains knew that he had come out, and that he had taken a small path. Most people didn't know about this path at all, so how could the other party have ambushed him here so early? At this moment, even he began to suspect that one of the 3 chieftains had betrayed him. However, he wasn't worried about this right now, but how to escape. In the blink of an eye, the 2 giant pythons had been shattered, and even his pair of rings were covered in cracks. It could be seen that the person who attacked was far stronger than him. The Leng Shichi was also a little surprised by the power of the 9-in white bone claw. Of course, he was more surprised. He also saw that Enxing had the intention to escape. With a shake of his body, he suddenly divided into 5 colorful figures and surrounded Enxing. Enxing finally saw the person who attacked him, but unfortunately, what he saw were 5 phantoms, which he couldn't tell whether they were real or not. The 5 Leng Shichi formed a pentagonal shape and made a gesture respectively. Behind him, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered madly and condensed into 5 formations of different colors. Spots of flowing light gathered in those formations, exuding extremely terrible spiritual energy fluctuations. Rotating light formation. The 5 formations completely blocked all of Enxing's retreat, leaving him no way to escape. The flowing light fell like a meteor shower. Enxing's cultivation was only at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm. The only thing he could do now was to fight desperately. Unfortunately, when he was about to use his trump card, the 5 Leng Shichi's eyes all flashed with dazzling 9-colored light, and Enxing was suddenly in a trance. It was in this moment of trance that he was killed by the countless streams of light that poured into his body. Enxing was a little bit surprised. The Leng Shichi habitually absorbed a wisp of remnant soul, but to his surprise, a system prompt appeared at this time. Mansion of the Underworld absorbed a soul. Chapter 586. Seeing this system prompt, Leng Shichi's heart skipped a beat. He quickly put away Enxing's mustard bracelet and cleaned up the scene, and then teleported into the Mansion of the Dead. As soon as he entered the Mansion of the Dead, he appeared in front of the Gate of the Dead. As expected, he saw a ghost standing there. Leng Shichi approached and took a look. The face of the ghost was clearly Enxing. But why did Enxing's soul come to his Mansion of the Dead after his death? Leng Shichi thought hard. In fact, there should be a place similar to hell in every world, so that people could continue to reincarnate after death. Now that Enxing's soul came to his Mansion of the Dead, wasn't it equivalent to robbing the business of the hell in this world? But then again, his Mansion of the Dead was just a name. It had no ability to help people reincarnate, so Enxing's soul could only be left here for the time being. Leng Shichi walked around Enxing's soul twice and found that the soul's eyes were dull, like a dead thing. It should be fine to leave it here. Leng Shichi thought further. Since the Mansion of the Dead had pulled in other people's souls, it meant that the Mansion of the Dead did have the function of reincarnation. Then, as the master of the Mansion of the Dead, would there be some benefits for him to reincarnate others? Of course, this could only be confirmed after the Mansion of the Dead was upgraded. Now his top priority was to destroy the Wilderness Tribe first, and then he could plan something big. Then Leng Shichi left the Mansion of the Dead, but this matter also made him realize that the god-level territory he had drawn was really not simple. At the same time, in the place where Kuk was ambushed in Sanning Mountain, there were 3 more corpses on the ground. They were the 3rd leader of the Wilderness Tribe and his 2 subordinates in the Spirit Aperture Realm. The ones who killed them were the 4 masters in the Gang's Spirit Realm, including Hopu and Feng Shamo. Hopu burst into laughter and said, "Awesome, awesome. Now there are only 2 or 3 masters in the Gang's Spirit Realm left in the Wilderness Tribe. Let's go and join the main force. Tonight I will attack the Wilderness Tribe." At night, Sun, the leader of the Wilderness Tribe, was drinking alone. It was late at night, but the 3rd leader and the 5th leader had not returned. Regardless of whether he went to Mount San Ning to investigate the situation or went to the Spirit Cultivator sect to ask for help, regardless of the result, he should have returned long ago to report back. Sun felt uneasy. And this feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger and stronger. At this moment, he suddenly sensed that there were strong spiritual forces outside the tribe, and there were 8 of them in the gang's spirit realm. Bang! And Sen's expression froze, and the flagon in his hand shattered on the ground. How is this possible? How is this possible? Hopu was still in the barren river tribe during the day. When did all of them come out? A few terrified subordinates ran into the room and shouted, "Leader, something bad has happened. That Hopu is coming with a large number of experts." "What are you waiting for?" Anson roared. "Gather the warriors and prepare for battle." Ha 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 ha. Hopper's arrogant laughter echoed throughout heaven and earth. "It's too late, Anson. Prepare to die." Anson rushed out of the tent, only to find that the 8 people in the gang's spirit realm led by Hopu had taken the lead to attack. Wherever they went, no one could stop them. The 8 of them were like a sharp knife stabbing into the heart of the wilderness tribe. Seeing his tribesmen being mercilessly slaughtered, Ansen's eyes almost popped out of his head. However, when he saw the dense warriors behind Hopu, he did not choose to fight for his life. Instead, he turned around and fled. At this time, how could he not understand that the 2nd leader, the 3rd leader, and the 5th leader must have been assassinated by Hopu long ago? Now there were only 2 people in the gang's spirit realm left in the tribe, he and the 4th leader, while the other side had 8. How could they fight? Moreover, the spiritual aperture realm of the barren river tribe was far more than that of the wilderness tribe. Coupled with the 8 people in the gang's spirit realm killing everywhere, the wilderness tribe had suffered heavy losses in a short time. This was no longer an equal battle. If Anson continued to stay here, what awaited him was only death. It was better to take this opportunity to escape. As long as he was still alive, the wilderness tribe would not be destroyed. Anson himself had never thought that he would be defeated so quickly and so thoroughly. But this was the fact, and he could only accept it. At this moment, his only thought was to escape first. For Hopu, anyone in the wilderness tribe could live, but Anson must die. Hopu saw Anson turn around and flee, and he cursed, "Coward." He would never let Anson escape, so he immediately rushed after him. Lingshichi executed remnant wind lightning light steps and caught up with Anson in a few flashes as if he was teleporting. Hundreds of sword chi of star extinction formed a sword prison in the void and shrouded Senator Anson turned around and was startled to find that someone had caught up with him. But when he found that the person who caught up with him was only at the 1st level of the gang's spirit realm, he suddenly smiled coldly. "You are courting death." A powerful green light burst out from his body, and a fierce beast roar came out, shaking the space and directly shattering a large number of sword chi of star extinction. However, he didn't notice that there were several mysterious stars shining in the sword chi of star extinction. Immediately, several starlight chains fell from the sky and were about to bind Anson. But behind Anson suddenly appeared the shadow of a ferocious behemoth as high as dozens of meters. Lingshichi furrowed his brows. He could only control the starlight chain to bind the 4 limbs of the phantom beast. The phantom beast continued to struggle, causing the starlight chain to shake violently, as if it would break at any moment. However, Lingshichi did stop Anson. Hopu finally caught up with him. His whole body lit up with spells from the remote antiquity, and behind him, the shadow of an ancient god of war appeared. Hopu didn't use any fancy spiritual power. He just punched, and the ancient god of war punched back. In an instant, the sky darkened, as if all the spiritual power and light of heaven and earth were destroyed by the punch. Rumble. There was a loud bang in the sky, like a sudden clap of thunder. With the place where they were fighting as the center, the ground within a radius of 10,000 feet caved in deeply. Waves of terrifying spirit energy spread out, and those with slightly lower cultivations were directly washed to death. Looking at Anson again, his body was covered in bloody scars. He looked like a broken porcelain doll, but there were wisps of green light constantly repairing his body. Anson was seriously injured, and he stared at Lingshichi with hatred. If he hadn't been trapped by Lingshichi's heavenly star lock, how could he have been seriously injured by Hopu in one blow? But he didn't expect that Ling Shiqi was also staring at him, and his eyes were full of killing intent. As soon as the Demon Advent War blade appeared, a blade light condensed with all of Ling Shiqi's power tore through the night sky and cut through heaven and earth. At this moment it was as if heaven and earth were frozen, and only this blade light was able to cut through everything. At the same time, an invisible blade light tore open and Sen's spiritual world, wantonly destroying his divine thoughts. Divine Ephemeral Bloom. Chapter 587. The strike seemed to split the sky and the earth. However, what surprised Ling Shiqi the most was that Anson was still alive. At this moment, Anson was bleeding from all his orifices. His whole body was covered in blood, but the gem on his forehead was emitting a faint light, preserving Anson's last trace of life. It was the first time that Ling Shiqi's magic flash in the pan failed. Generally speaking, he would only use this move when he was sure to kill. He didn't expect Anson to have such a strong life-saving ability. But he wasn't worried, because Anson could not escape the fate of death. At this time, Hopoo attacked again. Although he was also amazed by Ling Shiqi's strike, the most important thing now was to kill Anson. Hopoo said disdainfully, "The Wasteland Mother Stone can save you once, but not twice." He clenched his fists, and a momentum filled the world. When his fists fell, the earth shook as if an earth dragon turned over. At this time, Anson had no strength to resist and was buried in the abyss in an instant. Ling Shiqi absorbed a trace of Anson's soul and knew that he was finally dead. At the same time, he also got the system, and the underworld had many more souls. These were the dead people of the Wasteland tribe, including Anson. But Ling Shiqi felt it was a pity that Anson's storage bracelet would be wasted. He planned to go down and take it out when there was no one around. As soon as Anson died, Hopoo couldn't help laughing wildly. He had fought with Anson for decades, and most of the time, he was suppressed by the Wasteland tribe. Now that the Wasteland tribe's defeat was certain, how could he not be excited? With Anson's death, the other fourth leader also died under the siege of several masters of Gang's spirit realm. Without Gang's spirit realm masters, the Wasteland tribe was like meat on a chopping board, completely at the mercy of others. At dawn, the battle was over, and the Wasteland tribe was wiped out. The Wasteland tribe only paid the price of dozens of low-level warriors. It could be said that it was a one-sided massacre. Hopoo knew very well that it was all thanks to Ling Shiqi, who first helped the Huangchuan tribe expand its power, and then killed 3 masters of the Gang spirit realm of the Huangchuan tribe. Not only that, he had acted with extreme speed to stop Sen, who was about to escape, and had even forced Sen to use his life-saving trump card. That was how he had been killed by Hop in 2 moves. It could be said that without the Ling Shiqi, Hopoo would never have been able to destroy the Wasteland tribe. Hopoo walked to Ling Shiqi with a large pile of mustard seed bags in his arms. "Mr. Liu, I can't thank you enough. These are all the resources we found in the Wasteland tribe. They're all yours." Ling Shiqi was also tempted. The Wasteland tribe was equivalent to a second-rate faction, and much stronger than a second-rate faction. The warriors of the tribe are not good at anything except fighting, so we can only be slaughtered by Li Zhongtao. Fortunately, that brat Di Chuan has lived up to our expectations. Not only did he enter the Discipline Commission and receive great training, but he's also been sent to the imperial capital. That Li Zhongtao has only recently restrained himself a little. After listening to these words, most of them were within Ling Shiqi's expectations, but he still had a doubt, so he asked, "Chief Hopoo, why do people die while mining?" "The warriors of the tribe are all strong and have cultivated spiritual power. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any deaths." Hopoo also smiled bitterly. To be honest, this star stone vein has been mined in the hands of the Wilderness tribe for hundreds of years. Before that, we don't know how long it has been mined. In fact, there aren't many ores left. If you want to mine, you have to go thousands of feet deep into the cave. But there's something strange down there. From time to time, some strange light will emit. Anyone who touches it will either die or be injured. I've also gone down to take a look myself, but I didn't find any clues. Those lights appear without warning, and there's no pattern at all. So, even if the people sent to mine are all elites, it's inevitable that there will be casualties. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was even more certain of one thing. That was, a secret treasure of the Star Tribe must be under the Star Stone vein. Not only could he attract Li Anlei's guards, but he could also prevent the people of the Discipline Commission from causing trouble. However, the premise of all this was that there was a treasure in the Star Point mineral vein. But in reality, where did the treasure come from? Hee, it's still up to us whether there is a treasure or not. Leng Shiqi chuckled. I will go down the Star Point mineral vein and deliberately make some noise. The miners will, accidentally, find the treasure inside. Then, Leader Hopu, you just need to cooperate with me to put on a show. Hopu's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay, Mr. Liu, please arrange it. One day later, Leng Shiqi had arrived at the Star Point mineral vein. At this time, most of the miners had been quietly transferred away, leaving only a few who were pretending to be there. Leng Shiqi soon landed in the deepest part of the Star Point mineral vein. He opened his supercilious eyes and found that his vision was blocked more than 10 miles below. It must be a high-level array that could block the supercilious eyes. Leng Shiqi's body immediately sank into the ground. He was able to move freely underground. Soon, he arrived in front of a complicated array. Seeing that the array was very similar to the one in the Zhuge family, it seemed that it was indeed the work of the Star Tribe. As soon as he appeared, dozens of starlights shot toward him. He could feel the terrible aura of destruction from those starlights. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for him to resist with his current strength. However, he did not need to resist at all. He quickly activated the Heavenly Star technique. With him as the center, a huge star atlas instantly appeared around him. It was the Heavenly Star Gang. The power of the Heavenly Star Gang was even stronger than the Golden Dragon Flame Gang. However, he never dared to use it in front of others. Because if someone recognized it, he would be hunted down by the whole continent. At this time, as soon as the Star Atlas appeared, the starlights that shot toward him suddenly dissipated. The array in front of him also slowly rotated, and a door appeared in front of him. There was no pattern on the door, only a star that shone with a bloody light. Leng Shiqi walked to the door, stretched out his index finger, and forced a drop of blood essence from his fingertip. When the blood flew into the crimson star, the star immediately twisted, and even the door kept twisting. It was as if the space was distorted. Immediately, the bloody star suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a narrow opening that could only allow one person to enter. Leng Shiqi withdrew the Heavenly Star Gang and walked into the opening. When he entered, the outside returned to normal. The first thing that Leng Shiqi saw was a huge, lofty palace. The whole palace was dotted with stars, as if it was formed by countless stars. There was a dark blue road between him and the palace. The road was made of a strange material. Walking on it was as smooth as a mirror, but it gave people the feeling that they were strolling in the starry sky. When they felt it carefully, they found that there were traces of spiritual power actively entering their bodies. The material that paved the road was a rare treasure. Leng Shiqi took a step forward, but he heard a caw sound coming from all around. Then, under the tiles, statues that were 2 people tall rose. There were hundreds of statues, and each of them was silver gray. They were expressionless, and only their eyes shone with starlight. They seemed to have their own consciousness. The scary thing was that the aura that these statues emitted was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the spirit aperture realm. Leng Shiqi was alert. He continued to try to take a few steps forward, and found that the statues had gathered together, forming 2 rows on the left and right. Then, they lowered their heads. It was as if they were welcoming their master back. Leng Shiqi thought that people with the bloodline of the Star Clan could enter unimpeded. He then strode forward and went straight to the door of the main hall. On both sides of the door, there were 2 huge statues that were dozens of feet tall. When Leng Shiqi came here, the two statues reached out their left and right hands to help him open the door. However, the moment the door was opened, a shocking starlight suddenly burst out thousands of feet below the star vein. The starlight directly penetrated thousands of feet and went straight into the sky. The starlight outlined the shadow of the main hall in the sky, and then suddenly disappeared. Chapter 589. The starlight illuminated the world. Although it was just a flash, it still attracted some people's attention. The Huangchuan tribe immediately took action and tried their best to block the news. Anyone who saw it was either killed or given a lot of benefits to keep their mouths shut. However, this news was still leaked out. At this moment, in Ningyang County's Dark Thunder Manor, Li Zhongtao was furious. Because 3 days had passed and he still hadn't found any trace of Ling Shiqi. It was as if this person had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Not only Ling Shiqi, but the 2 people he brought with him were also the same. Trash, a bunch of trash. Li Zhongtao scolded the few senior supervisors under his command. How could you just watch 3 living people disappear right in front of your eyes? Who are you? You are the Dark Thunder Guards. You can't even find traces of 3 people. What else can you do? Do you still deserve to be the Dark Thunder Guards? Li Zhongtao was anxious. Ling Shiqi had been in Ningyang County for several days, but he couldn't find any trace of Ling Shiqi. It was even more impossible for him to know what Ling Shiqi was doing. Why did Ling Shiqi come to Ningyang County? He was here to seize power. Since he was here to seize power, of course he couldn't just hide. Li Zhongtao thought that Ling Shiqi must be hiding in the dark and planning something. As the saying goes, it's easier to dodge an open spear than an arrow in the dark. Li Zhongtao was now in the dark. He didn't know when Ling Shiqi would make a move, and he didn't know what methods Ling Shiqi would use. Therefore, he was really anxious. He no longer had the confidence that he had on the first day that he had everything under control. The 4 inspectors, including Lin Jigui, all kept their mouths shut. They didn't even dare to breathe. They had indeed messed up this matter and deserved to be scolded. But they couldn't really be blamed. Ling Shiqi and the other 2 people's cultivations were too high. To be honest, only the 4 inspectors and Li Zhongtao himself could keep up with their speed. But they couldn't possibly do it themselves. But other than them, it was impossible for their subordinates to track down Ling Shiqi and the other 2. Lin Jigui and the other 3 were well aware of this, but none of them dared to say it out loud. If anyone said it out loud, it was very likely that they would be sent by Li Zhongtao to find the whereabouts of Ling Shiqi. This was a tough job, and no one was willing to do it. Therefore, they obediently waited for Li Zhongtao to finish scolding and cool down. Lin Jigui then took the opportunity to change the topic. Sir Li, I heard that the Huangchuan tribe has made a lot of movements in the past 2 days. They even destroyed the Wasteland tribe. How could Li Zhongtao not see through Lin Jigui's thoughts? But he still said, I know about this. Hopper doesn't know how to appreciate favors. But we can't do anything about it. The people of the Discipline Commission will look for him. On the other hand, Lin Jigui chuckled and said mysteriously, Sir, actually, your humble servant has also found a piece of shocking good news. Don't keep me in suspense. If you have something to say, just say it, Li Zhongtao said impatiently. Lin Jigui lowered his voice and said, Your humble servant has just received a report that the Starpoint mine of the Huangchuan tribe shone with starlight yesterday. It seems that a rare treasure has appeared. Oh. The Huangchuan tribe again? Recently, Li Zhongtao had often heard news about this tribe. This was too strange. There must be something fishy about this. The recent series of movements of the Huangchuan tribe must be fishy. Could it be that all of this had something to do with this so-called rare treasure? Li Zhongtao asked, Tell me the details. As soon as he asked, Lin Jigui secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally succeeded in changing the topic. He hurriedly said, It's strange. There were no signs of the Starpoint mine. Right after Hopper attacked the Wasteland tribe, a mysterious starlight suddenly erupted. After that, Hopper even sealed off the news. But there's no secret in front of my Dark Thunder guards. My spies still found out. It said that there's a treasure hidden thousands of feet deep in the Starpoint mine. Really? Li Zhongtao revealed an expression of interest when he heard this. It wasn't rare for there to be a rare treasure beneath the Starpoint mine. For example, the wasteland gem that the wasteland tribe was so proud of was dug out from the depths of the Starpoint mine. There's definitely a treasure, but I can't say for sure what kind of treasure it is. Lin Jigui didn't give a definite answer. Li Zhongtao waved his hand. Who cares what kind of treasure it is? Go and inform Hopper that the Dark Thunder guards want it. However, Lin Jigui was somewhat hesitant. Your Excellency, there's something that I don't know if I should say. Enough, hurry up and say it. Li Zhongtao was somewhat impatient. The Huangchuan tribe has just destroyed the Wasteland tribe. It's reasonable to say that the people of the Discipline Commission will hold them accountable. If news of this treasure reaches the Discipline Commission, it won't be our turn. Li Zhongtao slammed the table. You're right. Those people from the Discipline Commission have always been jealous of us. If they really know about the treasure, they won't let it go. How about this? Go and negotiate with Hopper immediately. Tell him that as long as they give the treasure to us, I'll help them block the Discipline Commission and save them a lot of trouble. I'll personally make a trip to the Discipline Commission. Your humble servant understands. Lin Jigui hurried to the Starpoint mine as quickly as possible. When he arrived, he saw Hopper personally standing guard here. Lin Jigui was even more convinced after seeing Hopper. He went straight to the point. Hopper, I'll tell you the truth. Lord Li already knows about the phenomenon at the Starpoint mine. If the Huangchuan tribe doesn't want the mine to be seized, hand over the treasure obediently. Hopper was puzzled. What are you talking about, Lord Lin? Why don't I understand? Stop pretending. Lin Jigui sneered. In the Thunderflame dynasty, who can compare to the Dark Thunder guards in terms of intelligence? Do you think you're foolproof just because you shut some people's mouths? You're underestimating the Dark Thunder guards too much. Hopper's expression changed. As expected, I can't hide from you. Lin Jigui laughed. Ha ha ha, Hopper, you better know your limits. You won't have a good ending if you make an enemy of the Dark Thunder guards. Besides, Lord Li said that as long as you're willing to hand over the treasure, we can help you solve the Discipline Commission's problem. The Huangchuan tribe won't lose out at all. Hopper fell silent, but Lin Jigui was very confident. He was sure that Hopper would give in under the carrot and stick. As expected, Hopper said before long, I can agree, but I have a condition. Lin Jigui was delighted, but he didn't show it on his face. On the contrary, he said with a straight face, Hopper, you don't seem to have the right to make conditions. Sigh. Hopper sighed deeply. Then, Lord Lin, do you know why I didn't go down despite knowing that there are treasures below? It's because it's dangerous down there, and the Huangchuan tribe alone isn't enough to take the treasure. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.